Hey, this is René. Welcome back to another video on this channel. In this video, I want to give you the chance to have a look at programming in the MetaTrader 5 to write an automated trading strategy. And I have a lot of tutorials on this channel already. The problem is some of these are too advanced for beginners. So in this video, I will explain every single step. We will write a simple program together. And there are no excuses really because I will explain everything. So even if you are a complete beginner when it comes to programming, also when it comes to trading, you do not really need any knowledge to understand this video. So we will code a really simple strategy together, and this strategy will be a program that just trades one trade every single day when a new candle on the daily chart appears. And we will just check if the previous candle, I can show it on the chart, if the previous candle is a positive or negative candle. For example, after this candle was green, we would open a buy trade here. Then again, we would open a buy trade here, we would open a buy trade here, we would open a buy trade here. And also here, this one would not be profitable, of course, but then we would open a sell trade, a sell trade, a sell trade, and then here again, buy, 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 buy. Something like this. So really, really simple, easy to understand. We don't need a lot of code for this. So let's start right away with the programming part. So to write an automated program for the MetaTrader 5, you will have to create an expert advisor. Expert advisor is just the name for automated trading programs in the MetaTrader 5. You can also say bot or algo, robot, or whatever you want to call it. It's just the program that monitors the market and then finds signals and opens trades and closes trades automatically. So to write such a program, we can use the MetaQuotes language editor. It is a tool that is part of the MetaTrader 4 and 5, and you can find it if you click on Tools, MetaQuotes language editor. This will open the MetaQuotes language editor automatically for you. And here you can see it. And for me, there are some programs open already. But we will just create a new program. So when you open the MetaTrader 5 for the first time on your PC or the Meta Editor, it should look somehow like this. So you just have this blank space, you have a toolbox down here where you can find all the arrows and everything, and you should have the navigator on the left side. If you do not see anything that I just explained, you can always click on View and then open the toolbox or close it, and same goes for the navigator, of course. So in the navigator, we will just find pretty much every single folder that is part of your MetaTrader 5 MQL5 folder. So if you go back to your MetaTrader 5 and you click on File, Open Data folder, you will see the folder that holds all the necessary data pretty much for this MetaTrader 5 installation. And here you will find the subfolder MQL5. And if we now compare the structure here, like all the subfolders with the folders here in this navigator, you can see this is exactly the same. So in the Meta Editor, this navigator, it just shows everything that is in the MQL5 folder of your MetaTrader 5 installation. So if we, for example, open this experts folder, and I can do it here and also here, we will again find the same folders, the same files. So this is the folder where all the programs have to be installed in order to be used in the MetaTrader 5. So if we want to create a new expert advisor in this folder, the easiest way to do so is click on New in the upper left corner of the Meta Editor. Then you see expert advisor pre-selected. You click on Next. Then you can choose a name, one trade a day, for example, per day. But you can choose any name you like. You could choose your dog's name, your cat's name, your grandma's name, whatever you want. Then we have some more lines, but we will touch nothing else but the name. Then we click on Next, Next, and Finish. And this will automatically open the source code of the expert advisor that we just created. But not only that, we will also see that here on the left in the navigator, we will see this 1 trade per day file. And if we right click it and click on open folder, you can see this will also, we are also able to find it here in this MQL5 folder, as you can see here, of the installation of this MetaTrader 5. So we will find the 1 trade per day file here. You can see this 1 trade per day is a .mq5 file, which means it is in the end just a text file. And this file can be used to create a executable, a EX5 file. And these EX5 files are then used to run some strategy in the MetaTrader 5. So what we can do to take this MQ5 file and turn it into a EX5 file, we can go back to our meta editor, and yeah, we can make this bigger by double clicking it, and then you can click on compile. And compiling a file in programming language means that the computer or the compiler takes your text file and it does all the interpretation and then restructures this file or creates a new file that is then that has the functionalities to be interpreted by a program like the MetaTrader 5. Because the MetaTrader 5 cannot read this, because this is just like easy to read source code that a human being can understand, but we will have to compile it so it turns this easy to read human code into machine code that the MetaTrader 5 can then interpret and act accordingly. So if we click on compile, you can see this works. We get here some information in the toolbox, and if we go back to the folder here, we can see now we do not only see the 1 trade per day MQ5 file, we also see the 1 trade per day EX5 file. So we just created our first expert advisor or algo bot. And if we now go to the MetaTrader 5, you can see here in the navigator, it's exactly the same. So if you click on view navigator, if you do not see it, you can see that it will open the navigator on the left side. And here you can find this expert advisors folder again. If you open it, you should see the 1 trade per day file or expert advisor here now. And this is only visible if you compile the source code, because here you will only find the executables. So if I drag and drop this onto any chart, you can see this is a working program, and I can click on OK. And the program is now running here in the upper right corner of the chart. So we just created the first expert advisor, which is not doing anything, but it is already attached to a chart. And if we now start to add useful code to it, this code will be executed in this specific chart. And how does this work? So this whole concept of MetaTrader charts and expert advisors, it is of course a predefined concept which is created or was created by the developers of the MetaTrader. So the MetaTrader has some code in the back end that says if there is a chart open, if there's any chart open, and if there is an expert advisor attached to it, then whenever something happens in this chart, this event should also be executed for the expert advisor. And therefore, we will find some predefined functions in the expert advisor that are executed if there is a specific event in this specific chart where the expert advisor is attached to. So this is like the link between the MetaTrader chart and the expert advisor. It is all configured in the back end of this MetaTrader, of this trading platform. So whenever there's a chart with an expert advisor and there is, for example, a tick in this chart, then the chart or the MetaTrader, however you want to call it, it notifies the expert advisor that is running in this chart, and it will trigger a specific function in the code or in this expert advisor, and the function is on tick. So it is as easy as it sounds. So whenever there is a tick in this chart, it will trigger the on tick function. So for example, let me rearrange this code a bit. I will first of all delete all of these gray lines, because these gray lines starting with 2 slashes here, they are always just comments and they do not affect the code. They are just for the programmer. So I can just delete them and it will not change anything. So let me delete all of these lines, and if I compile again, you can see everything is still working. Also, personally, I like to rearrange these curly brackets here. You can just follow me here, because this is how I like to structure my code. And then if I go into this onTick function, in the body of this onTick function, and again, this onTick function, it was there right away. So it is part of a basic expert advisor. So we do not have to do anything to see this function in the code. And then we have the body of this onTick function. And the body of this onTick function is in between of these two curly brackets. So whenever you see a curly bracket in MetaTrader 5 programming, you can assume that it is the body of some function or control structure. In this case, it is the body of this onTick function. What does this mean? So everything here is executed when the onTick function is triggered. Yeah, I have some typos here, but I think you know what I mean. So when the onTick function is triggered, everything inside of these two curly brackets is executed. So I can do something like print, this is the onTick, like this, and you can just copy this line, because this is a function which is part of the MetaTrader 5 or MQL5 framework, and we can use this to print something in the experts journal of the MetaTrader 5. And in these round brackets, which I use to wrap the parameters of this function, we can provide some information that should be printed. And then, since we are having a statement here in this line, we have to end the line with a semicolon. So if we compile this, we can go back to our MetaTrader, and if we now go to View Toolbox, you can see if I switch to Experts down here, it prints this is the onTick whenever there is a tick in the chart. And this is because when there is a tick, the chart will notify the expert advisor. The expert advisor will see that there is some code in the onTick function. So we just execute the code, and the code just says that we want to print something. Same goes for the onDinit and the onInit. So I deleted the code in the onTick function, and I moved it to the onInit. So I can say this is the onInit, and this is the onDinit, like this. If I compile it again, and don't forget to compile. Whenever you change something and you want to apply the changes, you have to compile. So it creates and overwrites the old executable and creates a new one. And then it is automatically exchanged in the chart here. So what happens here is, if I, for example, now remove the program, you can see it triggers the onDinit function. Because the onDinit function is another function which is part of this MetaTrader overall concept. And whenever you have this onDinit function in the source code of an expert advisor, it is executed when the expert advisor is deinitialized. So for example, when it is removed from the chart. Also, we have the onInit function, and this is a little bit like the counterpart. This function is triggered whenever an expert advisor is attached to the chart. So you can see these two functions go hand in hand, kinda. So if I now run the program again on the chart, and I can clear this before I do this. So if I run the one trade per day program again, if I click on OK, you can see it triggers the onInit function. Also, for example, if I change the time frame, you will see that it calls the onDinit function and afterwards the onInit function. But what is really interesting is you can see here, it first of all calls the onDinit function on the old time frame, the D1, and then calls the onInit on the new time frame, the H4. And this is how the onInit and onDinit function work. We also have some return value here for this onInit. We also have some parameters here for the onD init, but we will not look at this in this tutorial. In this tutorial, I want to keep everything as easy as possible, so you can understand everything, you can follow along, even if you don't have any programming knowledge. So let me explain the rest of the existing code that we have here. We have 3 properties at the top of the program. These properties have absolutely zero effect on the functionality of the program. They will just provide information for the user. So if I double click this little head in the upper right corner, you can see it gives me the version ID, which is 1.00. It gives me the copyright, and there's a link behind it. So if I, for example, change the link, I could say something like en.bmtrading.de, something like this. And if I change the copyright to my company name, GmbH, like this, if I compile this, you can see these values now change it. So wait, I think I have to activate the program again. Okay, yeah, so if I change the values here, it should change for the expert advisor also. For me, there was a bug, so I had to restart the complete MetaTrader and MetaEditor in order to show me the new information. But now it is working, and now you can see there's the new version that I said I want to use, and there's the new copyright, and there's the link that I chose. So if I now click on this link, it will direct to, for example, my website, and this is also a good way to show you the complete course that I have for MetaTrader 5 programming. You can find it here. Just click on or go to en.bmtrading.de or click on the link below this video, and you will find the MT5 masterclass where I explain everything like completely easy like in this video, so you can understand how to write programs for MetaTrader 5. So if you're interested, watch the 2 videos like this one and the other one on this website, and you will learn everything about this course. So let's go back to the programming. So you can see like the copyright link and version, it's just information for the programmer. So I could also go ahead and delete it and compile the program again. And if I run the program again now, you can see, yeah, it's not, it should be gone. So if I restart everything again, you will not see like the version here, the copyright and the link. It's just a bug in the MetaTrader. But yeah. This is how the properties work. So now we only have these 3 functions left, and I already explained what these functions do. So when we now want to create the program that I explained before, we first of all have to figure out when there is a new day in the chart. And to do this, we will, the easiest way to do this is to figure out the moment when there is a new bar created in the daily chart. And for this reason, we will create a integer variable here, which is called total bars. And what does this do? So I said I will explain everything. So I will explain also this declaration of this integer variable like really easy to understand. So in programming, you always work with data, and data has to be stored somewhere in your PC. And there could be different types of data. For example, you can have numbers like this. You could also have numbers like this with a decimal point. You could have text like this or this, and you could also have true or false, which is also a data type. And there are different data types, and the PC has to know what specific data type you want to use. And for this reason, there are different variable types. So in this case, I used the integer data type, or int. And this data type is used to store numbers that do not have a decimal point. So in a integer variable, I can store any number pretty much that does not have a decimal point. So for example, something like 43. And yeah, so the declaration of a variable works like this. I put the type of the variable, then I choose a name, and this could be anything pretty much. So it could be total bars, it could be Peter Pan, it could be your dog Bello, I don't know, it could be anything, but it should be a name, of course, that explains what this variable should hold. And in most cases, you have a specific use case for every variable. So I will choose total bars here. And then to end the line, I will have to put a semicolon. So if I forget the semicolon, it will throw an error. But if I put it, it is all fine. So this is just basic programming syntax. It doesn't really do anything. It's just there for the PC. So the PC or the compiler knows that this statement is complete at this point. So you can see now total bars is there. And if I print total bars, I think it will print 0. So let's have a look at the program. If I activate it, you can see that this prints 0 because there's currently no value in this total bars variable and the default value could be 0 here. We could also say something like this. So we do not only declare the variable, but we also initialize it by putting some value inside of this variable. So if I do it like this, it will now print 2. I could also go ahead and do something like this, but this will not work, but it will throw a warning at us and it will say that this is not the kind of number that you can put into an integer data type. So if I try this, it will still print 2 because the decimal or the digits after the decimal point will simply be cut away. If I would change this to a double variable, it would work because double variables are used to store numbers that have a decimal point. And this is why it is important for the PC to know if you want to use an integer or a double variable because they hold different values. And in the end, this is important because it has a lot of different reasons why it is like this. Because these variables or the values in these variables, they are in the end stored in the working memory of your PC, the random access memory. The RAM, you might have heard of this term. And in this RAM, there is a lot of there are a lot of bits and bytes that you can store there. And for example, if it would put this total bars variable at this point in your memory of your PC, it could put the integer variable here or the double variable here. And it is important to know what kind of variable it is because it will be interpreted in a different way. And this is why the PC needs to know how to interpret this variable, because it would be different if this is an integer or a double variable. And this is why it is important to have a data type for your variables. So this can be a little bit confusing in the beginning, but again, I explained this super detailed and with a lot more time in the MetaTrader 5 masterclass. So if you really want to understand programming, you should enroll for the course and watch the lessons there. But for this video, we just need to know that we can create this integer variable, which is called total bars, and we can put values inside of this variable. So we could go ahead, for example, in the onInit function, and we could put a value in this total bars variable. So if we do it like this, we will print the value that is at this point in this stored in this variable. Please make sure that you do not write the int here again, because it will throw a warning, because this is already known. The PC already knows it is an integer variable and it is created up here on a so-called global scale, so we do not have to declare it again. Also, it is important that we declare the variable here and not here, because we will use the variable in different functions. So if I try to print the variable here in the onTick function, this will work. So there's no error. But if I declare the variable here and not on the global scale, it will not work, because the total bars variable is at this point not known in the onTick function, because it is just declared in the onInit function. And whenever a variable is declared in the body of a function, it is only available in this specific function. This is the concept of different scales in programming. But if I declare the variable here on the global scale outside of any function, then it is accessible in any function. So now if I compile again, the error is gone and I can use it in the onTick function. So, okay. So now we learned how to declare a variable and how to change the value of a variable. Of course, I do not want to put some random value here inside of this variable, but instead I want to use the return value of the ibars function. And the ibars function is a function which is, again, a function of the MQL5 framework. So we do not have to write this function on our own. We can just write a small letter I and then bars. And we can already see what this function does because we see the signature of the function here. So we can see this function, it will return a integer value. It is named ibars and it has two parameters in total. So the parameters for this function, they are, you have to provide some information to this function so the function knows what value it has to return to you. So we can write these round brackets where we want to put the parameters. But first of all, let's have a look at this function. Whenever you put your mouse cursor inside of any function, you can press F1 on your keyboard, or you can go to help MQL5 reference, and then it will open the MQL5 reference with the explanation for this specific function. So here you can see this is the ibars function, and you can read everything about this function here. And this is why MQL5 programming is so great, because of this reference. It's so easy to understand. So you can see what this function does. It returns the number of bars in a specific chart. You can see how this function looks like, and you can see an explanation for every single parameter. Also, you can see the return value. So the return value is the most important thing for us because it's the number of bars in a specific chart. So to make sure that this ibars function knows what specific chart we want to get the amount of bars for, we will have to define this chart. And the chart is defined by using the symbol and the time frame. So what we could do here is we could have a look at our chart. We could say we want to use the euro-US dollar and the daily chart. So what we can do here is we can say something like euro-US dollar as a first parameter, and the second parameter can be anything or any time frame that is available in the MetaTrader 5. So we could just choose period D1. And this list is already suggested once we write this comma. So we could do it like this. And if we compile this, you can see it will give us the total amount of bars in this specific chart. Also, if I change the time frame, we always get the amount of bars for this specific daily chart because this is what we defined here. What happens if I activate the program in another chart, like for example, the GBP USD? I mean, I could run this on every chart I like. So if I run it here, you can see it gives me the same amount of bars. I don't know if this is correct because in this case, I would like to get the amount of bars for the GBP USD, of course. So an easy way to fix this, or to always use the chart symbol where the EA is attached to, you could, instead of hard coding the symbol, you could use underscore symbol. Because if we have a look at the reference, you can see this is a predefined variable and it always contains the symbol name of the current chart. So if I compile again, we can see now the number changed for the GBP USD chart because there are not that many bars in the D1 chart as they are for euro-US dollar. So using underscore symbol is the best way to always use the chart symbol where your EA is attached to. So since we now have the amount of bars for the chart stored in the total bars variable, we can now go ahead and switch to the onTick function. And here we will create another variable. This is now a local variable, which is only existing in the onTick function. And we could say something like bars. Make sure to choose another name like you used before, because this is a completely different variable. But we will do the same thing here. So we will just take this piece of code and put it here. So ibars symbol period D1. And now you might question yourself, why do we do this? So why do we do the exact same thing? We create another variable and we put the same value pretty much in this variable. We do this for a single reason, because this variable, this total bars variable, is declared on a global scale and is only updated in the onInit function here. So when the program is initialized or activated, we will store the total amount of bars in this variable. But from this point on, the value doesn't really change, only if we switch the time frame, for example. But the value in the onTick function for this bars variable, it will change whenever there is a tick in the chart. So for example, if there's the first tick in a new bar on the daily chart, this value will be bigger by 1 than this value. So if we now go ahead and compare these values, we can figure out if there was a new bar in the chart. So what we can do is we can use a so-called control structure, which is the piece of code that you use to add a specific behavior to your code. We can use a if structure, for example. And a if structure is always, it always looks like this. You write if, which is like the code word or the initialization of a if statement. And then we have in round brackets, we have a condition. And this condition can be either true or false. So we have to do something like a comparison. For example, we could say if total bars is smaller than bars, then we want to do something. And whatever we want to do will be written inside of the body of this if statement. We learned before, whenever we have the body of something, we will put it in curly brackets. So this is what I do here is. So whenever the onTick function is executed now, the program will first of all do this. So it will create an integer variable, it is named bars, it will hold the total amount of bars. Then it will see in line 17 that there is an if statement. So what the program does is, it goes here, it checks the condition. So it will compare these two values, the total bars and the bars value, or the values that are stored in these variables. And then it will realize if these values are the same, nothing will happen. But if the total bars value is smaller than the bars value, then we will execute the body of this if statement. So it means that we can say something like total bars changed to bars. So if we print the total amount of bars here, we can see that this only happens once if there's a new bar. And we can test this now in the MetaTrader. So I mean, I could go ahead and just wait 1 day for the program to do this, but I could also use the strategy tester for a quick backtest. So go to view strategy tester or simply press Ctrl+R on your keyboard, and this will open the strategy tester for you. The strategy tester looks like this. We can now go to visualize. We can choose the expert here. So we go to 1 trade per day, of course, and then we can choose any symbol, any time frame, and any time or time period that we want to use to test this program. Make sure that this checkbox visual mode is checked and then click on start in the lower right corner. And this will run a simulation with your program on historical data. So if I speed this up a bit and if we see in the journal here, okay, there's still a problem because it is now giving us the total bars with every single tick, but we can fix this in the code real quick. So if I go here, I mean, like once we reach the body of this if statement, we want to update the total bars variable, and we want to store the now the amount of bars that we now have in the chart, in the daily chart, in this variable. So if we go back to the MetaTrader, run the same test again, just click start in the lower right corner, you will see in the journal here that whenever there's a new day, it gives us the total amount of bars. So you can see at the start of a new day, we will get this print statement exactly one time. And this is how we can make sure that everything that is inside of this if statement is only executed once. So what we can do next is, here we want to check if the previous day was a positive or negative day. And for this reason, we will need the open price and the close price of the previous day candle. So here we will need, for example, the open and close for this candle, because then we can check if the open is above or below the close price. And then we know if it is a red or a green candle. So what we can do here is we can say something like, we will create a double variable to store the open price of the last daily bar inside of it. And we will use a double variable, of course, because you can see on the right side, prices usually have a decimal point. And for this reason, we will need a double variable and not an integer variable. So I can put any value here, something like this, for example. I can create another variable, this time it is close, and I can put another value here. So if I do it like this, everything works, everything is just fine. So if I now go ahead and check if open is smaller than close, this would mean that the last D1 candle is green. And I can also check if open is greater than close, because in this case it means that the last D1 candle is red. Something like this. Also, you could combine these two if statements using the else if format, because whenever this is true, this can never be true. For this reason, when this condition is true and you execute the body of the first if statement, you do not have to check the second one. And this is why we can use a else if here. But it would also work if you just do it like this and you check both of these if statements separated from each other. But I mean, we can do it like this. It's a little bit, it makes sense in this case. So if we compile this, we can print something like, let's just print this sentence, last D1 candle is green. And we can also print last D1 candle is red here. So if we now compile this, do not forget to compile whenever you change something. We go back to the MetaTrader and we start again. We will run another test, and now we should see whenever there's a new bar, we see that the last D1 candle is always green. But of course, this is not correct, because if we have a look here, we see green and red candles. So why is it like this? This is like this because we hard-coded the open and close prices. And in this case, open is of course always smaller than close. So what we want to do is, instead of hard-coding these values, we want to use a function, which is the IOpen function, to get the open price for the last bar. And this function, we can have a look at the reference again. So just click Tools, Help, MQL5 reference, and you will find the IOpen function. So you can see this function returns the open price of a specific candle. And we have three parameters to define the specific candle that we want. So symbol and time frame, this is something that we know already. So we can just go ahead, provide the first parameter, which is underscore symbol. Second one is period D1, just like we did before. But the third parameter is now the shift value. And this is important because we will have to say what specific D1 candle we want to get the open price from. So we can choose the current candle, we can choose the last one, we can choose this or that candle. So we will have to provide the shift value, and the shift value is always, it always starts counting from the very right side. So the current bar has the shift value 0. The next bar has the shift value 1. This is 2, this is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and so on and so on. So in this case, we want to have shift value 1, of course, because we want the open price of the last bar. Now, we can do the same for the close price. In this case, of course, we do not use the IOpen, but instead we will use the IClose function. And all of these functions are part of the MQL5 framework, so we don't have to write them on our own. Maybe you question yourself, why or how do I know what what function I have to use? This comes a little bit with experience, and this is why watching tutorials like this on YouTube or like the MetaTrader 5 masterclass on my website, it really helps you to know the most basic functions. But whenever you want to learn something about a new function, you can also go to the reference and search for something like, or go to search and you can type something like open, for example. Oh wait, I think the best way is to really watch some tutorials and learn the most basic functions. But you can also go to like Google and Google like how do I find the open price of a bar, and you will find a result for this. So this is how you know more and more functions. And at some point, again, this is just experience and praxis, but this is not really something you have to worry about. The more you program, the more you learn these functions, and then it will just be second nature to just use the right function. So now we have the open and the close price. And if we now run the program again, you will see something changes. We do not only see that the last candle is green, but instead we will see the exact color that the last candle had. So for example, here we can see at the start of this bar, it says the last candle is green. And this is correct. But before this, it says it is red and red again. So you can see now this code that we have here, it tells us the color of the previous candle. So since we have this already, there's only one thing we have to do, and it is to open positions. And the easiest way to open positions in the MetaTrader 5 is to use the CTrade class. And to use the CTrade class, you have to include a file. And you can do this by going to the very top of your program, writing this hashtag include, and then in these spiky brackets, which is just a smaller than and greater than sign, you write trade/trade.mqh, just like I did here. This will include a file into your program. And I will not go into detail here, but what this does is, and you can always do it like this. You can always put this line on the top of your code and you will have access to the CTrade class. And we can now use the CTrade class to create a so-called object variable. In this case, we will do it on a global scale, and we can just write CTrade here, which is pretty similar to a variable data type, because this is the, it tells the PC what specific object variable we want to create. So if we compile this, you can see there's no warning, there's no error, everything is fine. And we can now use this trade variable to open positions. And this, again, you can do this in every program. You can just write this include statement and then create the, you can create the object variable like this. So now we can go ahead here and say trade dot, and now we can say buy and open a specific amount of lots for this chart symbol. And we can do the same for the sell side, like this. So you can see this buy and sell function. They can be used using this trade object variable, and it has a lot of parameters. The first one is the trading volume, and this is the only one that we have to provide, because the rest of these parameters, they always have default values, and you can see this because there is this equal sign and then there's a default value. So we do not have to override these values, we can just use it like this. So if we run the program again, you will see that this program now actually works and opens positions with every single bar. So you can see whenever there's a new daily bar, it will create an order for us. So, okay, no, it does not. And this is a really specific problem because the market is closed. Yeah, I mean, these things can happen. We can fix this. We want to store the position ticket of this order in a variable. So we can create a unsigned long variable, which is just another data type. Please do not be confused by these data types. You can read about it in the documentation also. So this is another data type that can hold numbers without a decimal point, but the difference to a integer data type is that the unsigned long data type, it can hold bigger numbers. This is like the only difference, and it is used in the MetaTrader 5 programming to store tickets, for example. So we can say trade result order like this, and it will, let's do it like this. We create this unsigned long variable on a global scale, and we say position ticket like this. This is the name for this unsigned long variable. And now we will update this position ticket variable here after sending the order. So we will say position ticket is now equal to trade.result order, and we will do the same here if we open a sell position. Result order. So what this does is when we send an order, here in this line, we will then check the order ticket, which is then also the position ticket of this order, and we will store it in this position ticket variable. And this helps us because we can now check if position ticket is greater than 0, because only in this case we want to update the total bars variable. And we will do the same thing, of course, if we open a sell position. Like this. So only then we want to update this total bars variable. Why do we do this? We do this because if the position ticket is smaller than 0, it means that this operation was not successful. Because if sending an order fails, the result order function here will return -1. And these are things that you just have to know, and you can read it, of course, in the source code. But again, I explain everything like this in the MT5 masterclass. But for now, you just have to know that when sending a order fails, the trade.result order function here returns -1. So if -1 is not greater than 0, so in this case, it would not update the total bars variable. So with the next tick, we will try to send the order again. So how does this look like? It looks like this. So we will try to send the order as long as the market is closed, and then when the market is open, we can send the order. So you can see now we have the sell position here. So now we open a position with every single bar. I mean, this program is not perfect, and we can change some more things here. For example, we want to say that we want to close a position whenever there's before we open a new one. So what we can do here, and this is really easy now because we have the position ticket of the currently open position stored in the position ticket variable, we can just go here or maybe here and say trade position close position ticket like this. And this should take care of closing the position before we open a new position. So I will explain the source code one more time after I showed you this. This is not really working, probably because I think we cannot close the order because the market is closed. Okay, so yeah, I added this line here to check if we were able to close the position or if we currently have a open position, because this position select by ticket function, it tries to select a open position, and if there is no position, it will return false. So we could write something like if position select by ticket is equal to false, this would be exactly the same like writing exclamation mark position select by ticket position ticket. This is just a syntax that you can use in MQL5 programming. So if we do it like this, and if we run the same program again, it should now work. It should open a position whenever there's a new bar, and it should also close a position before it opens a new position. And yeah, this is how you can trade like the daily bars of every single chart. And this program now works with every single chart. And yeah, it's probably not really profitable. I mean, for this period it is, but I hope that you learned something about programming. So let's have a look at the program one last time. Let me move this away. Okay, so starting at the very top, first of all, we we include the trade.mqh file because we will need it later on to create this ctrade object variable that we need to open and close positions. Then we'll create two more variables on a global scale, one integer variable. Again, these are any numbers. This is any number pretty much without a decimal point, and one unsigned long variable, which is also any number without a decimal point, but these numbers can be way bigger. So they just take up more space in your in the random access memory of your PC. This is why we have different data types here. These global variables, they are declared on a global scale, which means that they will be created when the program is started, and they will stay active for as long as the program is running. They will stay at the same position pretty much in the memory of your PC for the whole time, as long as the program is running. And yeah, then we have three functions: the onInit, the onDinit, and the onTick. We do not really use the onDinit. We could also delete it. It would also work. And then we have the onInit function, which is the function that is executed whenever the program is activated. In this function, we will update the total bars variable, and we will put the return value of this ibars function inside of this variable. The ibars function, it just counts the number of bars in a specific chart. The chart is defined in the parameters by providing a symbol and a time frame. Then we have the onTick function, which is the main function of this program and of most programs in MetaTrader programming. This function is executed with every single tick. So here, first of all, we will get the amount of bars for the daily chart again. And then we want to compare if we now have more bars in the total bars variable than we had before, because in this case we have a new bar, and then we want to check if there is currently a open position that we can close. So we call this position close function, which we can use using the trade object here. And as a parameter, this position close function, it just needs a position ticket. So therefore we can use the position ticket variable here, which is this global variable, to close this position if it exists. Then as a next step, we check if we are able to select a position using this position ticket number. If we are not able, it means that there is no open position, and in this case we want to go into the body of this if statement. So the body of this if statement, it is all this here. So you can see it because I moved it a little bit to the right side, and this is what you should also do because it's easy to understand which piece of code is part of another piece of code pretty much. So this is the body of this if statement, and if this if statement is false, we wouldn't even enter this piece of code here. So here we first of all get the open and close price for the last daily bar using these IOpen and IClose functions. They have a lot of parameters like symbol and period should be clear at this point. Last one was the shift value. So we use 1 because we want the daily bar of the, not the current daily bar, but the last one. So we have the open and close price now. Then we simply compare these prices to figure out if it is a green or a red candle. If we found a green candle for the last bar, we open a buy position using this trade object. And then, we will check, or we will update the position ticket variable And then we check if position ticket is greater than 0, because in this case, we want to update the total bars variable to make sure that we do not open a position with every single tick, but only if there's a new bar in the daily chart. And we do pretty much the same for the sell positions, only if there is a red candle. So you can see this program is, if you have a look at it, it's not that complex at all. There are just 40 lines of code. Pretty much, I mean, I could make it 40 lines like this, and it is really easy. And I think even if you never wrote a program before, I hope you were able to copy the code and to even understand a lot of the code, because I try to explain everything easily in this tutorial. So in the end, what I really want to tell you, or I want to ask you to really have a look at maybe 1 or 2 more tutorials on this channel. On this channel, everything is free, so you have nothing to lose. Just have a look at more tutorials, learn how to write 1 or 2 basic programs. If you want to use like the fast lane to become an automated programmer, you can always check out the links below this video, find the complete course, the MetaTrader Masterclass, and it will provide so much value for you. Because what I see in this trading industry, it's such a fast-paced business, and everyone wants to become rich quickly. Everyone is just buying existing expert advisors from some marketers online that they do not understand and that will not make them money in the long run in most cases. So please be smart, invest a little bit in yourself, a little bit of time, a little bit of money if you want to really understand how programming works, and it will give you so many benefits. You can make so many back tests, you can run programs, and you can trade without sitting in front of the chart. Just give it a try, give it a chance. In the long run, it's definitely worth it. I've never had any client or participant of my MT5 masterclass who said that he did not learn something or that it did not improve his or her trading experience. So yeah, I hope that you liked this tutorial. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section below. Since this is an absolute beginner tutorial, I will make sure to answer most of the questions if I'm able to. And yeah, at the end, there's nothing more to say than thanks for watching. Hope you learned something. And yeah, let me know in the comments what you think. And I will see you in the next video. Until then, have a great time and good trades. Bye-bye.